Salutations, everybody. It is Matty here today.
And it's me with Karak. Want to start over? Or do you want to just keep
We could
recording?
roll with this one. The handoffs and
Continue.
everything. All right.
3, 2, 1. Or do I have to do the clap?
You don't have to clap. No, I'll
We
just keep
need
it
to
recording.
fucking have all this in the starting of the video is what we need to do.
Right.
Anyway, continue. Sorry.
Salutations, everybody. It is Matty here today.
And it is me, Karak with ACG, and I actually know who I am right now.
All
We're good to
right.
go.
Perfect. So, for those of you who have paid attention to both of us for a long while, you know Karak and I started collaborating 2 years ago, right around the time No Man's Sky was launching. So we thought, let's have a friendiversary and talk about No Man's Sky again. We talked about, in a very extensive video, let's critique the hell out of No Man's Sky. Now its biggest and most popular update, I'd say, has dropped No Man's Sky next. So we're like, let's critique the hell out of that one together. We've both had a chance to test it out for a little bit. Karak, you want to lead this one off? Where do you want to go with this immediately?
Well, I think, like we discussed for a second prior to the podcast, like this is more about what we get for the money right now. I think we all agree. I don't think you and I were pretty quiet about what we disliked about what the company did prior. So ignoring all that for a second, I'll just say that third person is the bomb.
Yes.
Third person is, it adds this element to it that was missing in the first person. The first person felt lonely all the time. And instead of that loneliness now, it feels like you can still see like these empty, landscapes. It's like, it's such a different feeling, but you can see the person with it. And I think I think that's the biggest plus actually out of all this, even more than multiplayer.
I agree, because when I was playing in first person, I loaded up my old save file, which, as those who are watching the footage can see, was August 10th, 2016. Have you ever finished the game and then you go back to that old save file and you go, man, did you know that was the last time you were booting that game up then? Like, what was I doing then? What was I going off to do when I shut off that game? These are all the questions that rushed through my head. But when I did load up that old save, and I was in first person, it felt like I was just this moving camera. There really wasn't a lot of head bob. So I totally agree that third person is one of my favorite additions. As someone who's played a lot of BGS games, for example, I play in third person almost exclusively, even though the first person shooting mechanics are better. For me, any game I can play in third person, I love doing the third person option. Like you said, you see that person. And
yeah.
It feels like you're interacting with it rather than being a hovering camera. Not that there's anything wrong with first person, but I think this particular update really feeds off of that.
Yeah.
Now, we're not going to try to linger too far in the past, but we did get reacquainted with this game. Was there anything that, even with this new update, you just looked at it and went, yeah, this still isn't very good?
Yeah, I fucking hate the inventory.
Yep, same.
I hate the inventory. It's just click in, open, click in, open, click in, open. And it's so weird because some buttons are X, then Y, then Y and A, then A, Y, then X, Y, A. And you're like, it's a fucking Street Fighter combo at some point. It's just, it makes no, and when you get in there, and of course people are like, well, I was using a keyboard, so I don't see that. I completely get that, but you're still hitting, you're still nested menus. And I think that it would have been nice to have seen them. I know people are going to freak, but on the console version, go towards a radial menu of some kind, and try to fix it that way, or fix it in some kind of context, because dude, the direction pad is like 8 different controls. Everything felt really cumbersome, even from the moment I got on, and I played it all day yesterday, this morning for the stream, the day before, and I never once went, man, this inventory is even okay. I just hate it.
Yeah. I agree. Ever since we had a chat about Divinity Original Sin 1, I just remember since then, you put it in my head. You're like, dude, that game, great game, bad inventory. And then you pointed out why it was a bad inventory and how like the menus would cover different bits of the inventory itself. Right. And then I played No Man's Sky. I was like, oh my god.
Oh, the same thing happens. Yeah, the fucking where the words go over.
Yeah, it's like you took a key and just unlocked this part of me that I didn't realize I didn't like about games. Yeah, No Man's Sky has been guilty of that. So yeah, the menus. That's one thing for me. The crafting was kind of my biggest gripe of that. It kind of ties into the UI. It's that menu within a menu. I do like the complexity in the sense of discover the game, figure out how these objects work, how these resources combine. I'm not asking for handholding. I don't want people to get the wrong idea there. It's just that I have this idea in mind, and the menus and navigating them, as well as the crafting system in general, make it tough to make that all happen. Now, I do like the addition. Now, I know this wasn't in the base game, so I apologize. I don't know which update this actually came with, but there is this hotbar that you can use with the directional pad. Now, you didn't sound like you were a huge fan of it. I actually, once I got the hang of it, recharging weapons, recharging my hazardous suit, stuff along those lines. I actually really appreciated that. The addition of a torch, which once again, I don't know if that was in the first game or not, where you can actually see better at nighttime. These were cool touches, and like I said, it was all accessible through this hotbar. You could do the building through there. It just felt like it was all there at a touch of a button, whereas the inventory is a lot of navigating, reading a ton, expanding a ton of menus, and that ties into what was an initial launch issue with the text size, but then they kind of augmented that. But for the first time since this game dropped, I was playing from my bed here, which, as you can see, not really a far space between my TV, which was right here, and my bed. And for those who are wondering, it's probably, who don't see my room right now, it's probably like a 5'10" tops foot span. And I actually had to like get up when this start menu came up telling me all about the update for No Man's Sky Next, and like get in front of my TV and go like, what the fuck? And I have 20/20 vision, so I was like, what the fuck? Why is this so small?
Yeah, for me, the hotbar. So here's what I didn't like about so the hotbar is a great addition, but there's a couple things. One is that to get out, you're hitting the B button a lot. Like so you can be in the wrong, you can hit up, and the up doesn't mean up because you were actually in a different part of the menu a moment before. Like there's a little bit of a stickiness, I think, to that, where there were times where I didn't want to drop a fucking generator, but then there were like I was building a base suddenly.
Yes.
I need to hit B to get out and then get back in. And I find any inventory where I'm exiting all the way and then going back in reminds me of Skyrim with the original non-augmented
no Sky UI.
Yeah, no Sky UI, which is really Skyrim's UI now. I mean, if you're not using Sky UI for the PC,
I get grilled when I play Skyrim gameplay without that mod.
Yeah, so do I. But yeah, that the hotbar really did help, and yet at the same time, the fact is that a couple of those buttons on your controller, I'm just talking about controller right now just for a second, but a couple of the buttons on the controller weren't used that much, but the position, the first person, third person, was nested in 3 menus. To me, that seemed odd. It seemed like, why don't you move the option to change my view out a little bit into something easier to hit? Because when I'm flying, I might want to fly in third person, but then when I get attacked, I might want to jump into first person. Now, if somebody knows a quick thing to do, maybe they know that already. But to me, it was down, left, up, or whatever. Like it was a couple buttons to switch views. And I would have loved that one button press that we're all accustomed to.
Yeah, like the right stick or the left stick.
Yeah, in most games.
Button.
I think it's the right bumper that's not used that much, Matty. If I'm thinking on the controller. I think
that's like you can throw an elbow with that now. Like you can actually use your gun and gun hack someone with it.
Yeah, I can, and you can also, I guess, if you have no mining laser, you use that to get carbon from trees. So I guess.
Oh really?
I guess So if you're out of carbon or out of anything, you can still hammer the fuck out of it and get little bits of stuff, which helps.
That was the issue that presented itself last night. Was I was laying in bed, it was like 2:30 in the morning. I was dumb tired. I was like, okay, like my mining laser ran out of energy. I'm like, I gotta find carbon somewhere, and I'm just walking around collecting plants full of carbon.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
Yeah, it's like, holy crap, this stinks right now. But those games are up people's alleys, and I feel like this update really offers more of what people wanted and delivers on some initial promises that were made during the hype cycle of this game about the multiplayer, about base sharing. That's a new thing now, is when you collect in the resources, you build a base that people can see it. Sean Murray actually placed that awesome video on his Twitter of someone building like a base up into the universe and then dropping off of it.
Oh, cool.
And it was literally a good minute plus fall.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, and it was actually awesome.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, it was actually incredible that someone built something that went up into outer space and the game allowed it. I don't know if it was online or not, but it was still something cool to see. So I think that's a part of this game that we're really going to see take on a life of its own. Was there anything that stuck out to you during this update that you were like, yeah, this is going to cause a resurgence?
So I know you don't play as many space games as I do, like the Elites or something. But when I look at a sandbox game, usually I look in a weird. This is going to sound really weird, so let me explain. But you look at a sandbox game, I'm usually looking on the horizontal. I'm looking to the next horizon. Or in a No Man's Sky, I'm looking at the sky and I'm thinking I'm going to fly there. But No Man's Sky is a sandbox game where half the time you are looking at the sand. You are breaking down a rock. In fact, when you start, it's like, Merry Christmas, man. You get to go all over. Oh, no, you don't. You got to spend an hour and a half getting your fucking ship ready. Maybe not an hour and a half now that we all know what to do. 15 minutes, what have you. So I think that I wouldn't say I saw a resurgence or something that would instantly cause a resurgence, but I think that people probably understand what the game is a little bit more now. And we weren't told, so that makes sense that people weren't necessarily, as ingrained in it and as happy. Minecraft has become, it was already big then, it's become even bigger now. Minecraft is a building game. I can see people looking at No Man's Sky and saying, whoa, I can build a base into space? Base into space. There's the first rhyme. Yeah, here we go. This is going to happen the entire time. But yeah, so to me, that the resurgence is this, it's not necessarily as much as resurgence as it is we finally get to understand overall what the idea might have been and get to see it with a little bit of a different lens overall.
Good point. Yeah, because the big thing with this update was multiplayer. I believe in a previous update, the base building was already in addition. Yeah, Atlas. Yeah, that was like the first big one. It showed kind of a testament to like, all right, we're rebuilding this game. We're trying to add stuff to do to it. Because that's really when I found myself getting involved, is when I loaded up my old save file, played for a couple hours, then I started up a new game to see, how the tutorial had worked. And when I had a directive and I was following kind of what the game was telling me to, you could tell through some of the writing in the game, which was odd. Like, this is something I never expected to say after testing it. But you could tell through the writing and some of the data you were collecting in that initial tutorial area that, like, they were presenting this idea that you're kind of following in the footsteps of some ancient traveler or something had happened initially, and you're trying to find out what. It presents like an alluring mystery. And I think, like you said, those people who love Minecraft, which is a huge amount of people, even I fucking love Minecraft. I haven't played it in a while, but Minecraft's a great series. It's a great game. And so I think that as well will present a lot of intrigue for players. But more than anything, I think it's finally, like you said, we get what No Man's Sky is. I think this is the new standard for No Man's Sky. It's like, it's hard to imagine what's next, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, you look at like the elites and all this stuff, and they're more difficult, I would say, even from, at first when you're trying to get in there and you're like, what the fuck am I doing? And No Man's Sky does a little bit more hand holding. So it'd be cool to see what like the next game, whether they do another one or what have you. I will say that the one thing about narrative, it's funny you brought that up because I brought it up in the Twitch stream this morning, that to me, I feel that they missed a huge opportunity in this game, because I do like the narrative, and yet they don't do a great job with making you really yearn as much as I think they could have with some of the narrative. I like it. It's mysterious. I love that you get one word. Like, they'll be like, you understand the word for sneakers in this from this alien, and you're all, okay, the fuck? Like, what does that mean? And then you start understanding more of what they're saying, instead of like a lot of games where you learn one word and you're the foreign ambassador. You're like, suddenly you know everything and you can perfectly speak their language. I love that. I wish it would have pushed it more. I like the narrative. I wish they would have pushed that more, because I feel that the story, like a lot of sandbox stories, are just like, it's there and you can sometimes interact with it, but when you do, sometimes it's out of order, or it doesn't necessarily feel I don't know. It doesn't necessarily feel as contained as I was hoping it would be in this update. I was hoping there would be a little bit more of a tightness there, or just maybe a little bit more narrative, because I like the narrative. You're
Absolutely.
Right. I like the mysterious narrative.
Yeah, so. Because it adds to what feels at time, and to its strength in most parts, a lifeless experience. It kind of adds something to it where it's like, okay, there's something happening in this universe. It's not just me mining for resources on an empty planet with a couple of sentinels flying by and maybe shooting my shit up. There's more going on here, and it offers that. And I think that's what makes it all the more intriguing, is because it pulls you in with something that you don't really know what's going on. It adds life to it. And that's where I think the multiplayer, if there are more encounters, which apparently the universe has gotten even bigger, I guess that's probably not happening, where there's going to be those less encounters. But if there were more encounters, I think that would really add to the experience of, if the narrative was able to intertwine with what's going on and why everyone's exploring the universe to their utmost potential, and why every planet you land on doesn't have that much life.
And just kicking the shit out of the planet. Like anytime they do have life, you're like, excuse me, dude, move to the side. I need to smash your shit.
Like,
I need to
see
smash
this
up
nice
your stuff.
ecosystem here. I'm going to absolutely mine a hole right into the floor next to you.
And you leave, like when you're doing copper, you can leave copper floating, you know, because you can cut a hole around it. And you're just like, okay, see ya, bitches.
Yeah, exactly.
Expansionism.
Yeah, exactly, man. So that's why I'd love to see the story tie into why everyone's just trying to get about the universe and collect all these resources. The flying, that was another part that this obviously wasn't added. This was here at the base game, but this was a whole nother part of the management system that you can't just pick this game back up. That's one thing. This game requires your investment, because that's where that's a big reason why I restarted. I made a new files because I was like, you know what? I don't know what's going on here. I have to refuel my ship. I got to create warp cells. I don't know how to craft those. I don't know what to collect to craft that to do this. It was like, okay, this is just too much right now. Let me start from square one. Did you have that issue? Did you start up an old save file? Because
man, I guess I bet on my own stupidity instantly.
Oh, yeah?
I was like, oh dude, yeah, I was like instant new save game, because I knew. I just was like, I've done that so many times where I've jumped into a game at level 20 and you don't know the combos and you just get your ass kicked for 2 hours.
Oh, dude, I got rocked. I got rocked in No Man's Sky. I died.
Yeah, I turned it on and I'm like, new save right away, because I just knew I wouldn't understand 80% of what was going on, plus the updates you and I both missed, you know, which are not even a part of this, the Atlas update and stuff. I was like, I need to sort of jump in new. So no, I just bet on my own stupidity. I was like, I'm doing new.
I respect that, because for me, I was like, I got this. And then I read the menus and I was like, what am I
played it. I've driven a NASCAR in a NASCAR game. I can jump in and drive this real one.
Literally, first thing I did, I'm in this spaceship. I get in my ship. I just go to the nearest planet. I land. I guess I ran out of fuel while I was down there.
Yeah.
And then I find out I got to make more fuel. A super hazardous storm comes in. I think they call it like a supercell storm or something like that. My shit melts. I couldn't find a cave. I die. I'm like, wow. This is
or
brutal.
did you ever land? Like, I'll miss the stop. I'll see like a copper mine, fly over it and go like hammer the X button, and it's all, there's no place to land. And when you do land, you're all, I want to turn back around, and you hit that trigger and you almost know instantly it's like no fuel. And you're all, fuck.
Yeah.
Because you're like, oh my God. Like the one thing you didn't want to do.
The other thing is you should try to load up your old save, because I don't know how it works, but some of the, I know for a fact I had like 15 hours in the game, which was a decent amount of time and enough time to build up like a nice inventory of resources and upgrades for my mining laser and stuff. And when I loaded up the game, it had like a bunch of items in my inventory that I had to dismantle. They were called like old technology or something like that. Like they didn't work anymore. Like I think previous upgrades and stuff I had collected was just worthless.
Were not
now.
The same, was worthless.
Yeah. It was actually kind of crazy. I thought to myself, wow, it's almost like they want me to start a new game. And I was like, all right, I'll just, a lot of signs are pointing towards firing up a brand new experience and getting in that new universe that gets generated for you, I think.
Yeah, I don't mind the starting too much. My word of warning for newbies though is if you load up a planet and you look around and you leap out and there's already a storm or two and there's already a couple warnings, you might want to restart your game and do a different save game and see if you can get on a better planet when you start. Because there's been people there's been a couple people I've talked to who are like, dude, I got the shit universe. I got the Rurapente or the Hoth of all universes. I mean, I come in and it's like toxic planet, irradiated planet, and like, I don't know, fucking dead planet or something like, and I'm all, oh no. And to get out of there took so much longer, because your resources normally are meant to build your ship, get your shield running and get your engine, but because you're consistently being killed, then your resources are spread to two places. Now they're spread to keeping you alive and to building and fixing a ship or something. And that would be my word of warning to newbies. If you get onto a planet and there's a bunch of fucking warnings right away, especially a 3-bar warning. I don't know if you got it sounds like you did with the Supercell. You get that 3-bar warning and your life's just like it might be best to just see if you can find a better starting planet.
Oh, dude, I totally agree, because you guys just heard me. I literally got dominated on a planet because I tried to hop in, and I thought I got it right away. You know, that's the thing with this update is a lot of people are asking the question, like, is it time to go back? If you own the game, I'd say, like, yeah, you know, give it it's a free download. But if you don't have the game, if you haven't bought it, that's where I really struggle, because I don't know if I'm the right person to identify that, because while I critique the game heavily at launch, I haven't paid attention to those updates over the past couple of years. You know, only the big ones really caught my attention. And when I went back to it, I learned, like, you know what, this isn't my genre. So for you, where do you stand on this? You know, do you feel this is something that's worth buying now?
No. No, I would say wait for a sale on it. That was pretty much what I came to grips with. If you like this, you've probably already got it. And so now we're getting into this point to where people are looking at it again. It is still not where they said it was going to be when it first got launched, when the shit happened, when the bad PR. It's still not there. It's great. It's a lot better. Don't get me wrong. But to me, at least, if you weren't looking at it originally and you suddenly are, let's say you just bought an Xbox, first Xbox ever, and this is available, and you look at it, you have to be a fan of this kind of, you said it's not your genre. I think a lot of genres you can jump in if it's not yours. This one is, it's particular in that if it's not your genre, it can be mind-numbing. Now, I got lucky. I did what you did. I did not play it. I did my 24-hour live stream, a review, and a walking the walk, and then I didn't really touch it. So to me, it was brand new, sort of fresh. I couldn't remember almost anything. But as I was playing it, the nested inventories, the oddities, I don't necessarily think it's for everybody. And I had some technical issues. So there was definitely a number of issues with graphics, the clouds. The clouds just were doing weird shit. There was some disconnects with multiplayer. So, and it sounds like they're patching some of that next week. So maybe next week it might be.
I love the art style. Not to just
it's the best art style.
On a positive note, but holy crap, man!
1970s Flash Gordon's my shit, and it's dude, it's amazing. Like the ships,
it was incredible. The planet I was on had like some type of, I don't know if the rainbow is the right word. It was almost like a shield was over my planet, and it was beautiful. I was like, I'm so happy to be here right now. That's where I struggle with this game, because it's like I love exploring, and I like some of the resource collection. It's just like I wouldn't go in expecting, unless it's your style, I personally wouldn't go in expecting like this is it, this is going to captivate me, this is what I've always wanted. I think No Man's Sky is a solid game now. I really do like it a lot more now than I did at launch. I could see myself going back to it just because, like I said, that feeling of being on that planet and going like, whoa, this is something I discovered.
It's definitely much more solid. I mean, it's 10 times more solid. Yeah, for sure.
I had heard some issues with crashing, though. I played the PS4 version, and like, for those who don't understand what I'm talking about, it's almost like the game stalled. Like, you'd hear the audio go like that, like it just froze in place for a brief moment. And you're like, oh, it's gonna crash right here, and it doesn't crash. It's like it's just holding on by the threads, and that happened to me within like a couple hours, a good 5 or 6 times. Like, it was a pretty consistent stall, pause for like a second, maybe half a second, but it was like it just felt like the game was ready to crash at any moment in time.
And mine did. So on the Xbox, it popped out to the dashboard. I know you haven't played Xbox in a while, but like it won't like give you a warning. It'll just be like dashboard, and you'll be all, oh shit, and then you have to relaunch the game. And that did happen a number of times.
Oh, right. So, it's coming out on the Xbox, or it came out on the Xbox.
It came out on the Xbox. Time. Yeah, so I'm playing the X version.
How's that?
Yep. Oh, well, I mean, graphically, it does put the other two, not necessarily to shame, but it certainly does. It increases draw distance on foliage, stuff like that. You can get a pro mode, which is like 1440p at 60 frames per second, or 30 frames per second at a native 4K. Neither one is solid super when it comes to frame rate. I don't know if you noticed that, but I was noticing, especially when you turn the motion blurring off, which is supposed to mend those. If you turn it way down, you can certainly see some blips going on there. I didn't get the stall you got ever, but what I think I was getting in place of that was the full boot. So like it seems like for some reason you were getting the, oh shit, and the Xbox X and the Xbox were more of a, oh shit. And they just turned off. Yeah, we're done. So, I mean, technically, I like a great deal of it. I also would say that PC does have some issues graphically with like the shader cache people were complaining about. But overall, it can look really good when you crank it up.
Yeah, man, especially, like I said, the art style. There was some dog leopard thing with spikes on its back, and like I fed it some type of resource, and it does a bunch of like cute things. It starts walking towards me, and all of a sudden, like, I'm gonna be totally honest, man. It's almost like it shit out resources for me. I'm dead serious, man, because it's just walking. All of a sudden, these like red gems come out of its ass. I'm like, the fuck, and like I just go and pick them up, and it was like actually a valuable resource I need.
Hey,
I was
well,
like,
there you go.
All right, you know, that's the thing with this game is there's this sense of discovery that's not really built into any other title because the universe is so expandable. It's so large that you're always finding ever so slightly different new things. It's just like sometimes the big bummer moments are like you stumble upon a settlement and you go inside one of those buildings. There's like a terminal there that you can't even interact with. It's like 3 empty huts and nothing else. And you go, okay, the only thing I can take away from this was someone was here. That's it. Like there was no logs, no text, no audio, no resources, no chests, no money. It's like, it's just here. That's it.
I think that's when the procedural part of it shows its face.
Exactly.
You know, you get that procedural moment when you're all, and it looks, I don't know about you, but like you'll go to an outpost and it looks like somebody just grabbed the asset model from the editor and just tossed an outpost there. There's no real indication. I've talked about it in Witcher 3. Witcher 3 does a good separation of urban and rural where you're walking in a forest, but then you slowly start seeing indications of a city. And then you go to the city. None of that happens in No Man's Sky. It's just like, boom, little tiny capsule. And like you said, a number of times it'll be all you need, Epsom salt magic, you know, syrup to open this. And you're like, I don't have that. So what is that? Yeah. And then you're on and then trying to remember where that is. I don't know about you, but that was the one thing
going into the log, the guide section, and trying to find
or finding a spot that's like, here's a capsule, and then you fly off to get something, and then when you look back in your map, you're like, which planet was that even on? You know, that kind of stuff can crop up for sure.
Yeah, we're also, while some might just go, well, it's a procedural generated game, you guys should know this is coming with it. It does come with the territory, but we're also in a world now where I'm a huge fan of it, and Karak, I know you're a huge fan of it. We are in a world with Prey Moon Crash, which I think is the best version of procedural generation, hands down, bar none. I just feel it just didn't feel like procedural generation. That's how well done it was. It felt like all the areas were like handcrafted, which they were. It's just like the enemies were kind of jumbled up, and so was the loot. It just felt really special going through that type of procedural generation experience, and to play No Man's Sky afterwards, it's impressive in its own right. You know, it's like, holy crap, this is such a small team, and oh my god, this game is huge. So I wanted to know, as someone as well who played Prey Moon Crash, while they're not directly comparable in most ways, it's just more so the procedural generation aspect. Was there any comparisons you made? Anything that you noticed that, like, man, Prey's got this, No Man's Sky doesn't have this?
I would say just because, like, No Man's Sky's got the extended universe and the different planets, and people like it. I know a lot of people will be like, well, one's huge and one's not. It's true, but when it's procedurally generated, the entire reason they do that is so that the work is done by the procedure and not by like the artist. So I can honestly say, like, I did notice the jankiness of No Man's Sky and stuff like that versus like a Prey. The only thing is I think with Prey, they call it procedural generation, and well, it is, but they do touch it by hand a little bit and sort of say, this is where this should be perfectly. Where I think with No Man's Sky, when I watched Sean Murray talking about the procedural generation 2 years ago, it was more along the lines of, there's like a segment area where you can throw down a base, but they don't necessarily twist the base, make sure it's exactly perfect. They sort of just say, this is an open enough area for base A. Oh, this one's big enough for base C. And they sort of do it that way. But no, I mean, for what it does, it's pretty fucking insane. I mean, it is pretty insane when you can just, when you zoom out that first time you get your hyperdrive, right? And you see all the stars and you're like, damn. Same thing I felt with Elite, where you see everywhere you can go and you're like, this is the shit.
It's really just cool to experience, I think. That's the thing with No Man's Sky is you don't want to tell someone to go out and buy it on a whim. It's just cool to have that feeling of, like you said, you build your ship for the first time after the tutorial, you leave the planet, you see those stars, and you go, wow, I can really just keep flying and like pinpoint a single star and say, I'm fucking going there.
Yep.
And you do. Yeah, that's the type of stuff with this game that it's really hard to describe. You can't really sell into words. It's just that feeling that you get in your hands where you're holding the control and you're like, I can go anywhere. And while there's not this level of interactivity like NPC discussions and you know, you're able to shoot shit and there's dynamic quest lines. It's just that feeling you get, right? That I can go place to place wherever I wish. And I think that can speak to a lot of gamers personally.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how many sorry, I'm opening up Pepto here. I don't know how many open like procedural games you've played like this, but it still has, I think the mysterious narrative is still helps it more than anything, because it's sort of open-ended and you're like, oh, and then multiplayer, I do think it's sort of cool that the way they handled multiplayer with this, because it's just like, it just works now. Like, there's no rigmarole to it, or very little. There's a lot of, I don't know about everybody else, but I find that a lot of multiplayer games, to get into a multiplayer game sometimes is a hassle. Look at Sea of Thieves. It was Sea of Thief half the time I played it, because fucking getting another person into your game was a bitch when that first came out. With this one, at least for me, I was just flying around. I had my system open. I had been playing for like 3 or 4 hours, and it was amazing, man. Somebody just came in, and I was like, "Whoa, that's a player!" Like, and it took me a second to go, "Oh shit, that is a person. That's not an NPC." And I think that's where the game, at least for a lot of us, is pretty awesome.
Yeah, when you highlighted that multiplayer issue, man, I cannot agree anymore with that, because as someone who plays a lot of fighting games, there's the Arc system fighting games, while Dragon Ball FighterZ, I love this game, so don't get me wrong, but I mean the ring match system where I just want to battle my friends, why the fuck can't I just make a lobby and invite them? Same thing with BlazBlue Cross Tag Battle. How I can't just invite them.
BlazBlue does that?
Yeah, you got to like create a lobby, put a password, your friends search that lobby with the same password, it matches you up. It's just like, come on, man. Like, just let me do, especially with BlazBlue, it's very weird because in Central Fiction, which is another BlazBlue game from, I think, 2015, you can create a lobby and then directly invite your friends from your friends list. So it's almost like they regress. So I totally agree. While they're completely different genres, we do live in an age where there are multiplayer games that just inviting someone, getting them into your game can be such a mundane task that you almost want to play by yourself.
Yeah.
So yeah, with No Man's Sky, having it be seamless, having it just happen, so good. So good.
I think also, at least for me, when I'm playing the game, a lot of the stuff did just work, which was really nice. It's you get all these different space and open games. This one's trying to make sure that a person on a console can play it with somewhat ease. It's got the hotbar, I think, makes it easier. The newbie bits to it that make people jump in. But to me, at least, the one thing I had an issue with when I was playing it, because I like a ton of it, but I don't like the fact that they're like, congratulations, you have a ship, but it's broken. You fix a ship. Congratulations, you have a warp drive, but it's empty. You get that. Congratulations, that's not the right warp drive. You actually need the real warp drive. And then you get that. And then they're like, oh, but guess what? You need another type of warp drive to get to these stars. And I don't know, Matty, but like at some point, I want No Man's Sky. I want to go. And there's creative mode, but that adjusts the gameplay. I just sort of wanted it to be like open. And after 50, 60 hours with the original, and now fucking, I don't know, a lot of hours with this one, way too many, I still feel that that's the one thing that I think a lot of people won't get to before they get tired. That's what I'm worried about, is that, and when I say worried, I don't mean in a bad way, I just mean I'm worried that people won't get to experience the stuff that is cool, because that first area and first couple hours, dude, it can be grueling. Like it can, and not in a, I don't know about you, but it's not necessarily fun. I don't know what it is about Minecraft that's fun, but there's something I feel No Man's Sky is slightly missing.
Because you kind of touched on it with the reward system in a way where it's almost like you graduate college, you're having your grad party, family's coming over, they're handing you a letter, and inside that letter, usually you're expecting like maybe some cash from the family, like congrats, you did it, and it's like the $100 bill's ripped in half. They're like, yeah, here's 100, kind of. Here's your warp drive, kind of. It's like, they're giving you busted stuff all the time. It would just be nice to get a reward. Like, here is an advanced mining laser. Not that they should hand out these amazing
but occasionally.
Yeah, exactly. You get to a certain point, like, what would be a good way of doing it? Maybe there's a log in the game. You discover and scan like 200 items. They say now you can, because you've scanned X amount of items, you can upgrade the scanner, or you have mined 40 different rocks. Now you can upgrade your mining laser. Something to keep you mining, to keep you scanning, to keep you like, okay, this is why I'm building my way through this universe. That's why I'm mining my way, because it builds your character and you can get better stuff to continue doing what is enjoyable and what's really feeding that reward loop. At least, you know, that would be my solution for it. Well, I don't know if it's optimal or not, because you look at, once again, this type of genre, and it's like people sometimes just want to unplug, long day at work, kick back, feet up on the couch, and I just want to walk around and mine shit. It's therapeutic. You know, that's for some people, that's very much what this game is, and I totally get why, because it very much is a relaxing game. You know, games are stimulating. They stimulate the brain, they keep you up, and I was, not in a bad way, I was lulling myself to sleep last night playing some No Man's Sky. It was just very relaxing to kick back in bed and just go across the planet and just see what I was going to discover.
I think for me too, I don't think the developers understand exactly what they want to do with like the pirates and the bad guys, because there's not enough of them to matter. But when they do show up, I swear to shit, they show up the most inopportune times. Like, I don't know if it's checking and going, oh, he doesn't have any fucking booster left or whatever. We're going to, I mean, because some shit was happening. You're like, Jesus Christ, I just want to get to the rock. And what's weird is, after fighting through 10 enemies and maybe almost dying, when your reward is just a rock, at some point it lowers down my like desire to go to the next discovery point. And the narrative, again, I feel is where they could have nailed that, because I loved going to the temple and you learn the word and you fucking you get your first warp drive stuff and you're antimatter, and you're like, oh, I don't know if I necessarily wish there were more. I think I do. I think I just wish there was more of that, because the pirates show up, they only attack you most of the time. At least I haven't seen many big battles with other people. I've seen them firing at each other, I think. But it just feels like you're the main person who matters, but there's really no reason for you to be the one who matters, because you're the poor miner smashing a rock on some barren world. So, oh, and the Guardians. I still think those should be gone. I'm sorry. What the fuck what do the Guardians do in the gameplay loop to help the game at all? All they do is make me go with the mining laser, see that they're scanning me, and wait. And then they go.
It just halts it. Yeah, it's weird.
It stalls it, doesn't it?
It really does. It's odd. Now that you really point it out. For me, I think it's like a risk reward. Like, oh, I found this nice rock here. I'm going to mine it. Oh, there's a sentinel. I mean, in the scheme of things, does it really add much? No. And most times what I do is whenever I found a sentinel, I just fly off to another planet where there wasn't one and just mine for free there and not have any issues. That's really all, though. But yeah, I don't think it adds much to it. As for the space combat, yeah, it's strange that you are the center of focus, because you really don't have any actions that have consequence. Like, the only thing I can think of is you're hurting these pirates' economy by mining all their precious resources in the universe. I don't know, man, but like, you have to sort of buy off on that. I think. You just got to be like, all right, they just want to give me something to do, which is kind of what we were, I wouldn't say complaining about. We were mentioning like, hey, it'd be nice to have extra shit. I
think the little baby quest system does help, though. When you go into the stars, and they're like, even if it's something janky, like you need to collect 250 gold, it's all okay. Well, there's a little bit of direction here. So for gamers that want a little bit of direction, and it allows them to learn the mechanics. A lot of people say, I don't want direction. I get that, but a lot of people want direction just to understand the game, and then they'll do the other stuff. They just need a couple almost missions, and that's the one thing, and that was added prior to this. It was added at least one, if not two updates ago, the little missions, and I think that is great, because this was my first experience with them, and I really didn't think they were amazing, but I loved that they were there, because I could just go, okay, I need to do this thing, and then sort of pick up on some mechanics.
To give the brain a task to focus on, if anything, I think, which I don't think is bad for anybody, but yeah, for me, like, I remember when I first encountered that, it was in my second playthrough, and I think or my first playthrough, I should say. And I just think that was all messed up, to tell you the truth, in many ways, because, like, I opened up the quest log. I had a quest there, like a secondary objective to get something. I think it was to fuel the warp cell for my ship or something so I could take off. And so they assigned it in a secondary thing, and then I got out of my ship. I started walking around. I went to check the quest log, and it disappeared. So there are just little bugs that they need to stomp out here that have definitely hindered some of the brief playtime I put into it. But it's not something I'm against going back to. I did enjoy going back and just exploring and having it be nothing more than that.
Yeah, for sure. Me too.
Absolutely.
Ooh, I don't know, man. It's a weird game.
Yeah, weird game for sure.
I mean, overall, do you think you'll return to it?
Here and there. You know, I wouldn't say for sure, but like I'll keep it downloaded. Usually with a game like that, if I don't like the update, if I don't like what I'm playing, I delete it off my hard drive right away. I just go whatever. But this one, like I shut it off and I was like, maybe. Which I think is more than most. What'd
you think of the base building real quick? Like overall, you yourself, because you said you did mess around a tiny bit with it. I mean, did you?
Yeah, I liked it. You know, I think as someone who's played a good amount of Fallout 4, it just felt kind of familiar initially. It didn't feel
like
new.
the outposts, right?
Yeah,
true.
It just felt kind of familiar. You know, that's the best way to put it, which isn't a bad thing. You know, that I think while that HUD can be a nightmare too, I think that it was, like I said, I didn't have trouble deciphering it because, like I said, I'd experienced so much of it already. So it's hard to talk from the shoes for a new player.
Right.
But I like I said, building's always fun. It's always fun to put a picture in your head, say, I'm going to do that, and then stepping back and actually having it done. You know, whether it's been Minecraft, No Man's Sky, Fallout 4, or what other, Terraria. You know, it's just nice to do that at times. And so this is just more of the same in that regard, for me at least.
Yeah, it felt weird to me because I built a base on the first planet and then flew off, and then I went warped to another planet, and I looked back in the map and saw my old, you know, the old system I was at, and I was like, why did I build that base? What, will I ever go back to that base? Like, why did I ever build that? That's the one thing that sort of, I want to play it more to understand why you would build a base, because I uploaded my base and it's literally the worst base ever. I called it, like, when I uploaded it during the stream, I'm all, if anybody goes to this base, they're going to be really highly disappointed. It's a fucking like a platform, and that's it. But that's the one thing I was wondering about, is like, is there a sense of return to that, or is it just because in a weird way, maybe that's sort of what they're trying to do, is feel like it's a cycle of the universe where maybe in 10,000 years another group of adventurers see my little platform and go, who built that? Because he was a fucking idiot. But I don't know. There's things like that that sort of mess me up.
That's a good point. If someone builds something cool, there's a base sharing option now, and now someone can come along 3 years from now when we're talking about other games, but someone could still be back playing No Man's Sky and find what that person built and moved on from.
The world's worst base. Yeah, it's going to be awesome. They're going to be go check out my base, people. It's amazing.
For sure. All right, that's pretty much all I've got on the game, though.
Yeah, that's all I've got. I mean, art-wise, it's great. Sound has a couple issues, but overall, I love the music and the sound. The music's just fucking like
orgasmic.
Yeah, when you're walking around, it's just this heavy synth, like somebody's just like, and I love that kind of music. So yeah, I mean, graphically, I think people will dig it. There's a lot of stuff to like. I think it's cool that we're finally getting
there.
Yeah, no, we're getting pretty close to what was shown. We're missing sandworms and a couple other things.
Yeah.
I don't think we'll ever see sandworms.
So we're going to plan on doing more of these videos down the line,
yes,
for sure. You know, because me and Karak were like, why don't we do this more? Yeah, we're going to do that. So when there's big news, when there's big topics for us to touch on, you're going to expect us to, as the title suggests, critique the hell out of it. So we will catch you guys next time. As always, be sure to check out Karak's channel. It will be linked in the description down below. You already know he does amazing work.
Thank you.
That is all I have to say. Any final words from you?
Negative, man. Have a good one. I will talk to you guys later. Peace out.
Peace out.